What is going on, Dolphins fans? Jacob here, Miami Dolphins Syndicate. Happy Monday. Not Victory Monday, not a loss Monday, but a Monday with the Dolphins game. Playing the Tennessee Titans tonight. And I got some of the updated news on some of the players, on the teams that we're going to go over, some injuries to talk about, some situations to talk about. And then at the end, we'll talk about some of my favorite bets for this game, both in terms of the team bets, and then mostly I'll talk about individual player bets that I like. So first, we'll talk about what's going on with these two teams, and both of these teams had a very long injury report coming into this week. The Miami Dolphins had Robert Hunt, Teron Armstead, Javon Holland, Tyreek Hill, Raheem Mostert, Dermot Smythe, Devon Achane, Alec Ingold, Robert Jones, and Kendall Lamb and Christian Wilkins all on their injury report. Looks like there's only three that do have the potential to miss today. Robert Hunt has already been confirmed he is out. He is out with that hamstring injury. He's missed, quite a few games now, especially over the last month or so. So it's not really a surprise for him. And then the other two guys, also not a surprise. Started there with Teron Armstead. He's always got something going on. He's got his knee and his ankle that have been an issue. He did not practice on Thursday. He was limited in both Friday and Saturday. He's questionable officially. And then Javon Holland, who missed last week's game with both knees. He is following the same path, was not able to practice on Thursday, was limited in some capacity both on Friday and Saturday. No real indication which way they will swing. Teron Armstead, he's always battling some sort of injuries, and the fact that he was able to practice, the fact that both of them were able to practice in some capacity this week is definitely a step in the right direction. But I tend to ease on the side of caution, especially since that's what this Dolphins team has been telling us. We look how they've handled, especially guys on the offensive line like Teron Armstead, Robert Hunt, Connor Williams. We've seen them err on the side of caution, give them that extra week, and I'd hope they are healthier going down the stretch when there's a lot of important games to be played at the end of the season and obviously once we make the playoffs. So if it's close like that, especially when you have a game today with Tennessee that you do expect to win even without these guys, I would think the Dolphins would follow suit what they've been doing for pretty much all of this season, and not play them. But if you never know. Hey, look, I don't know. They've kept it so far really close to the chest. So with Armstead, I just always tend to lean more. He's not going to play. Javon Holland wants to play. He's close to play. They both practice. So if I had to guess with both, Armstead I'd probably say probably misses. Javon Holland I say probably plays, as he's coming back from that injury from last week. Reports where they maybe could have gone last week, but I'm not sure how trustworthy that is. But Robert Hunt is the one that's confirmed out. And then we look at the Tennessee Titans list, and I mean, I'm not even going to bother reading all these guys, but the most important news for the Tennessee Titans is the confirmed outs, and one of the biggest is Jeffrey Simmons. He has a knee injury that's going to be holding him out multiple weeks, most likely, so he's going to be missing the game, as well as starting defensive back Christian Fulton, cornerback, their number one, really. He has a hammy issue similar to Robert Hunt, so he's going to be missing the game today. Tyre Tart, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. He's got something personal. He may or may not play. He didn't practice all week, or he wasn't even on the report up until on Saturday, where he was listed as limited. Not sure what's going on there. None of my business, but he's questionable. But then, not starting, but tight end Josh Wiley is out also with a knee. But those two big ones right there, Christian Fulton, Jeffrey Simmons, their big guy plugging up the middle, and then their number one corner when trying to go against Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle in this offense. You don't want to be missing any of your secondary pieces, and they're going to be about both of those guys today. So really big injuries on both sides. Really big players, really impactful starters, guys that are really going to make a difference coming into this game. There's other guys on the injury report kind of similar with the Titans, like with the Dolphins, that maybe they could go like starting center Aaron Brewer. That would be huge if they're losing their two guys up the middle on both sides of the ball. He's currently listed as limited throughout all this week. Uncertain whether he's going to be able to go, but he's probably going to be able to go. But let's say he does miss. You're missing now your starting defensive tackle and your starting center on the offensive line. There's a few other guys on this list, but pretty much the rest of these guys look like they're going to be good to go once the game comes around. But Jeffrey Simmons and Christian Fulton are for sure out with their injuries. So first, with the betting, we'll take a look at the team lines for the Tennessee Titans, the Miami Dolphins. The Tennessee Titans are currently 14-point underdogs. The spread is That's one of the highest spreads we've seen all year. It's very rare that they get into double digits, let alone all the way up to 14. I believe the biggest one was the Cowboys versus Giants, which was, I think it was like 17 or 17 and a half earlier this season. And the Giants did not cover that, if I'm not mistaken. Over under 46 and a half. I mean, that's a line that you got to feel great about, especially with the Miami Dolphins coming off a game where we scored 45 points. That team definitely weaker on defense, arguably the worst defense of football. This Tennessee Titans defense is certainly a lot better. But to 46 and a half points when we just scored 45, they're down their starting corner as well. They're down their starting defensive tackle. You have the second highest scoring offense in all of football, the Dolphins scoring 32 points per game. I lean to go with the over there on the over-under. I don't want to touch that spread. Look, as much as it's very possible and very easy for the Miami Dolphins to win by 14 points, 14 points is just too much for me to be laying down my money. I mean, we saw that Raiders game. We could very much see something similar, different type of fashion, but they do have that alpha like Devontae Adams with DeAndre Hopkins. They have a better running back, arguably, than Josh Jacobs with Derrick Henry, the one that they're more willing to commit to. A better quarterback than the Raiders do with Aiden O'Connell. So, look, I don't like the spread, but I love that over-under at 46.5. So, with the player picks, like I said before, these odds are all courteous of Sleeper. Not sponsored, but hey, holla at your boys, all right? Give us some money. So, the first one, this isn't even available on the app, but if you can take it anywhere, take Raheem Mostert over anytime touchdown. There's only been 3 games this year that he hasn't scored a touchdown. He's the clear number 1 go-to red zone option. Achane got into the end zone twice last week in the red zone. Those were both in the second half. When the game really mattered, they gave it to Raheem Mostert. Leads the league in rushing touchdowns. Yeah, it's pretty simple math. If you can find that anywhere, which, again, it's not available on the Sleeper app, do that. So that's obviously my first. I'm going to give you guys my top 5. Not sure if I already said that or not. Number 2 is actually going to be Will Levis over on his passing yards, which is listed at 210 passing yards. So my logic with that is Derrick Henry was limited throughout this week. It was always leaning towards that he was going to play, but there was that possibility that he wasn't. Therefore, they've been probably prepping all week on the basis of him potentially missing the game. Which would then indicate a more pass-heavy offense. And actually, my next favorite bet is also on the basis of this. Also, you look at the Miami Dolphins against quarterbacks, 18th against quarterbacks. They are currently allowing 225 yards per game. Will Levis, look, it's been a very mixed bag from Will Levis. That first game, he came out hot, 238 yards. 262 the next week against Pittsburgh, a really good secondary there in Pittsburgh. I don't think they had Minka, though, for that game. And then last week against the Colts, 224. This is a game that's going to call for – they're going to be down for a lot. It's going to call for them to be passing the ball a lot, trying to get some big chunk plays. They're going to need to find DeAndre Hopkins, kind of similar to what the Raiders did with Devontae Adams. Like every single pass play, you got to find where DeAndre Hopkins is on the field. So Will Levis, I like his over there, over 210.5 passing yards. But in that same vein of talking about how Derrick Henry was limited all this week, and it was we were curious as to whether he was going to be good to go or not, is why I like Tajay Spears over 19.5 rushing yards. Last week when he came to the game for Derrick Henry, very effective, very efficient, and he's a very different type of runner than Derrick Henry is. And he's nowhere near as big, 5'10", 200 pounds, compared to 6'3", 230 pounds of Derrick Henry. You're not getting that power, but you're getting that second option. You're getting that third down back. And when he came in last week for Derrick Henry, over 70 yards on the ground. He's been getting more carries. He's been getting a higher snap percentage as the year's gone on. And he's somebody that I think they'd be very comfortable with him. Not going to be the workhorse that Derrick Henry is once the season comes to an end. But somebody that you feel very confident that if you bring in a nice 1B that, excuse me, that you can hand off the reins to. So 19.5 rushing yards. I really like that number for Tajay Spears. Number 4, I mean, it's crazy that this number is this low, but Devon Achane, 13.7 fantasy points. There is only one right answer, and that is to take the over. You take away the New England game where he only had one rush attempt. You take away the Raiders game where again he had one rushing attempt. His lowest fantasy output, and I believe this is half PPR, is 21.5, which was against the Giants. And the the Tennessee Titans losing Jeffrey Simmons. Now, when you look at team defense in terms of when you think like how are they going to do stopping the rushing attack, Devon Achane is almost defense proof as he lines up all over the field. And now this is fantasy points instead of rushing yards. So he'll be lining up at the slot, he'll be lining up out wide. We saw in that Tyreek Hill touchdown, the first one of the game, he was just as open down the right sideline. The safety for some reason actually was playing more to his side, which I don't think you'll ever see a single high safety play to the side of a rookie running back over Tyreek Hill. That might be the last time in NFL history you ever see that happen. And hopefully for opposing teams' defenses, that is the case. But Devon Achane, the ability to create in space, now paired with what we saw on that drive, it was garbage time, but I felt good about his ability to run between the tackles. He's very small, and that was my concern about him coming into the season, was his ability to run between the tackles and play against bigger guys and what's going to happen as soon as they get their hands on him. But he was able to, he didn't have that one particularly big play, but next thing you know, he has 25 fantasy points. It was a very solid day. And like I said, how you don't really worry about opposing teams' defense against the run with Devon Achane. Tennessee is dead middle of the road in terms of fantasy points allowed to running backs, which is 14th. I think this is going to be a game script where if the Dolphins are up big, you see Raheem Mostert get taken out in the second half and funnel the ball off to Devon Achane, still try to get his feet underneath him since coming back from that injury. So I have Devon Achane, fantasy points, over 13.7 as my second favorite bet. And then finally, something a little bit different. Usually when you go to betting, you look at offensive guys, what's Tua's line? What's Tyreek Hill's line? Something sexy, something fun like that. However, we're going to go and scroll all the way to the last tab, which is sacks. And we're going to go Andrew Van Ginkel, 0.5 sacks, taking the over. Look, this is nothing more than this is just a dude on fire right now. Pick 6 last week. He, according to Sleeper, did not get credited for a sack last week, which I don't understand how that was possible, because if I'm not mistaken, it wasn't the first or second drive of the game that he had a sack on Sam Howell, but I digress. Did they consider that a rushing play? Like, I don't know where the sack went, but they didn't consider that a sack last week. But he's been on fire. He is, maybe our best edge rusher right now. And it's really just a vibe play. Look, dude's on fire. He stepped up very well for Jalen Phillips. Arguably played better than Jalen Phillips has some games this year. And it's just strictly vibes. So that's Raheem Mostert over anytime touchdown, if you can get that, which Sleeper, you currently can't. Tajay Spears over 19. Let me go back and find it. It was actually Will Levis over 210.5 passing yards. Tajay Spears, it's actually gone up. I think it was at 19.5. Now it's at 20.5 just in the midst of recording this. Devon Achane, 13.7 fantasy points over and 0.5 sacks over on Andrew Van Ginkel. All right. Very exciting game tonight. Both Donovan and I, we didn't get to do our live stream, but we both expect a pretty solid win from the Dolphins today. We're going to be there. If you see us, stop us, say hi. We're just regular dudes. This is a fan channel. But we appreciate y'all very much for tuning in today. Let us know your score predictions down below in the comments. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you have a great rest of your day. Go Dolphins.